Hello everyone. Is it strong enough? Do you hear me clearly? Is it good? Okay. Do you hear a French accent? Yes? Okay, it's good. Guys, do you want to come and sit here maybe in the front? Okay. Yeah, a little bit. Okay. Yeah, so hi everyone. So I'm Florian, so French, 33-year-old. And I have actually, so I've been born and raised in France. And then I went to finish my study in the USA at University of California of Berkeley, very close to San Francisco. And then I stayed over there for 10 years. And so I'm going to tell you a lot of what has happened here in Silicon Valley and my experience with Box during all this time. And now actually I'm moving back to France, where you have like a very big startup ecosystem that is starting to boom as well, with a lot of young talent, a lot of VC money. And it's like a lot of other hubs in the world that are notably in Asia, where a lot of new opportunities are outside of Silicon Valley now. And so before coming back to France, I decided to take some time off. And I've been traveling for 2 months through Asia and Middle East. So I started in Tokyo, and now I'm in Istanbul, stopping in every big tech city to see what was going on, what problems entrepreneurs were trying to solve, to get inspired about like, what was going on in the world outside of Silicon Valley. Because when you work in Silicon Valley, you are really in a bubble where you just think about what's happening at Google, at Facebook, at Uber, and you kind of forget everything else. And that's kind of bad. Okay, so just to start, like, who works in a startup here? Okay, so not everyone actually. Okay, and who is an engineer or like a CTO, manager of engineers? Okay, a little bit of people. Okay, good. So today I'm going to talk about like 30 minutes about the history of Box, about the business model, about the growth, everything, and then we're going to have like questions. And during the questions, we can talk a lot about like best practices of Silicon Valley, how to grow the teams, the mindset of you need to have to work in a startup, all this kind of stuff. So now I'm going to talk about Box. So who knows Box here? Okay, okay. So Box, to make it very simple, it's like Dropbox for enterprise. So Box is a solution, a cloud solution, that allows you to put your files on the cloud and to share them, to collaborate with your collaborator in your enterprise, with other clients, and also to integrate your files with a lot of other systems, with Salesforce, for example, or with Google, so that you can always have access to your files. And when your files are on Box, they are more secure than anywhere else. You can do more things with them. You can like attach tasks, comments, workflows, so that then big enterprises can create very complex workflows with their content, with their data, their files, in a very secure and organized way. And so Dropbox is great when you are like a few people that just need to synchronize files between each other. And Box is great when you are a big company with thousands of employees and you need to organize all your data in a very clean and organized way. And so the clients of Box are big enterprises. So the biggest client is General Electric, so one of the biggest American company. It's a 300,000 employees, and they all use Box to share their files. And basically, the vision of Box is every company in the world needs to have some email to communicate. So for example, you're going to use Gmail. Every enterprise in the world needs to have a content management system like Box to share their files in a very secure way. And so today, Box has a lot of those big clients, a lot of the big banks, consulting firm, and healthcare company, people that need a very, very secure system to store their data. Box today is 1,300 people, so like a big company. It's 10-year-old, and it just went public in the New York Stock Exchange at a valuation of about $2 billion. So like a pretty big success of the Silicon Valley, and actually not an easy success. So I'm going to tell you about the story of Box and what has happened to it. So then let's start with the beginning of Box. So the beginning of Box is pretty cool. It's really like your typical startup story. So it started 10 years ago. It was at the time, it was like before people talk about the cloud. It was just at the beginning of the Web 2.0 era, where people started to use Facebook a little bit. MySpace was still pretty big. People did a lot of mashups between different apps. So like a very, very long time ago. And it started, it was founded by 4 co-founders, 4 friends that went to the same high school. And actually, they all dropped out of college after 1 year to go start Box. And at the time, it was pretty adventurous to do this. Today, it's pretty cool to drop out of college, right? To just do, hey, I'm like Mark Zuckerberg, right? But at the time, it was very, very crazy. And so when they started Box, they were 19 years old. So they didn't know anything, and they were very courageous to start this company. The first idea of Box started as a project for a business class from Aaron Levy, the CEO of Box, really an incredible guy. And for his business idea, he thought like, yeah, actually it sucks for me when I need to move my files from my computer in my room, in my dormitory, to the computer science lab. And at the time, the only way to do this was to use email attachment or FTP, but it never worked. It was like pretty slow and everything. So then he kind of like described a box, like a system where you could put your files on the internet, which was very crazy at this time. Like no one would really trust the internet to put files. But then actually, the idea was pretty cool, and he thought about exploring it more. And this guy was 19, but he actually had already like, I don't know, like 8 years of entrepreneurship experience. So he was the typical like a Jewish entrepreneur with a lot of ideas all the time. When he was like a 12-year-old, he already started his first website. So he started a new website to be a search engine. So he tells very often that actually he lost against Google. So it's pretty sad. He tried to do a lot of crazy stuff like buying the email domain Yahoo with like 3 O instead of 2. So that people that will mistype will go to his website, he will get traffic, sell advertisements. A lot of stuff like this, like really a guy always thinking about opportunities. And then he saw Box and he started to think about how to actually really give a try. And then the second co-founder joined, who is the CFO, so the Chief Financial Officer. And at the time, he played a lot of online poker. And he won about like $20,000 playing online poker. And with his first money, they decided to start to do an MVP, basically. Actually, even the name MVP didn't exist at the time, but they started like this. And then what they did, they hired a team of contractors, of 10 contractors in Siberia, 10 junior Russian developers that will create a full first version of the website. The code quality was horrible. It was like copy-paste everywhere. So we started from the beginning with a pile of like shitty code. It's called a tech debt, if you know like the term. But actually it worked, and it was like a good idea, a good execution, and people started to use the website to put like their files on the internet. And then just after, the 2 other friends joined as technical co-founders and tried to then scale the architecture. It started like this at the very beginning. The first angel funding of Box happened from a very famous guy in the Silicon Valley, Mark Cuban, big entrepreneur and an angel investor. And actually, the campaign to raise money from him was one of the easiest in the history of Silicon Valley. Aaron Levy, the CEO, just sent an email to Mark Cuban telling like the story, the pitch like in 2 paragraphs, and then like 2 weeks later, he got like a check back in the mail. So like very, very easy and pretty incredible. Then they started to raise money, Series A, about like $1.5 million. And then I joined just at this time, number 7 in the company, and first hired engineer after the 2 technical co-founders. And then for a few years, we tried to find a business model and to grow. The first use case of Box was individual people that would just want to put their files online to share it with people. And we had, at the beginning, it was only a paid solution. You could only pay like maybe like $10 per month, something like this, to have the offer. And the use case would be maybe a consultant that need to share files with a client, or maybe a lawyer or an architect, something like this. And it was only paid. But at this time, what was very important was the number of users. It was like the beginning of Facebook when it started to get a lot of users, of MySpace. The only metrics people looked at was signups. Today, it's not the case anymore. Signups don't mean anything. You can get signups very, very easily. Today, it's retention, it's engagement, it's daily, monthly active users. But at the time, it was really about signups. So then Aaron decided to change the strategy and not make only a paid offer, but to do a freemium offer where you have a lot of features for free, and then you can pay more to have extra features. And the interesting story is that when he decided to do this strategic move, the first angel investor, Mark Cuban, thought it was a stupid idea and then sold his money from box. And so actually, he lost like a few dozen $1 million by doing this. And then we started like for a few years to really try to get users. And it was like so much fun. So it was like really the craziest startup movie. The 4 co-founders were living in the office, actually, in the garage next to the office. I will come to work on Monday morning and leave on Friday night. And I will sleep like all night at the office, coding until 5 in the morning, waking up at noon, going back to my desk coding, still in underwear. So really like your typical crazy startup. And we really tried to get traction. We tried everything. So we did integration with Facebook, with MySpace. So we were pretty big on MySpace. At some point, we had a little widget that bands, like musicians, could put on their page so that they could show their MP3 and people could listen to their music. And at the time, it was very new. It was like before iTunes, before Spotify. So it was one of the first ways to really listen to music online. So then we thought, oh, great, maybe we're going to be big in the entertainment industry, in the music industry. But actually, it never worked. So that didn't work at all. Then we said, OK, we're going to try to go after some verticals. So one of the first verticals we tried with one intern one summer was going after a wedding planner. We said, oh, great, people are going to be able to share the picture of flowers and dress with a wedding planner. But then like, there was no really business into this. And in a way, like Pinterest solved this problem years later. We tried all of this. And then the growth was still pretty good. We had like maybe 500,000 users, then 1 million users, 2 million users, and it would grow like this. But it was not like exponential at all. And basically, we were not able to crack the consumer market. And one thing we know actually was that the consumer market was not a really good business to be in, because what we were selling at the time was in a way storage. We were selling 1 gigabyte on the internet. And we knew that the price of storage will go down over the years, and also that when the big player, Microsoft, Google, will enter the market, they will make it free, because they have a strategy of a suite where they sell everything together, and they just like they can invest money in some products by being paid with other products. So we knew that we would actually lose on the long run. So then combined with those two effects that we didn't really crack the consumer market, and we knew that the consumer market was shit on the long term, we had decided to do a pivot. And actually our pivot toward the enterprise, toward the B2B business, we wanted to do it, but we were kind of forced to do it at one point, where when we were raising our Series C of money, so we're looking about like $5 million, something like this, this happened in October 2008. And October 2008 was the big financial crisis of the American subprime. So then all the investors were like panicking. Everything was crazy on the market. Everything exploded. So all the VC were very scared and wanted to wait to see what was going to happen. And during this time, our money in the bank will go down, 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 down. And VC will not respond to us. So at this time, we almost died. And then we had to go through a very difficult experience. We had actually to lay off, to fire 1/3 of the employees. And so we went like from like 40 to 25 employees. So this was like a very hard moment, because like, you have been working with your friends for a few years, and then just next day you learn that, okay, they have been fired. And at this time, we had to do this so that we could have like a few more months to raise money. And then when we raised money with the same investor as Series B, so it's called like a bridge, then we had to change our strategy and to have like a very, very good, sound strategy. We could not just say, hey, maybe we're going to find something on the consumer market. And actually, at the time, we had started to see that some consumers, some users of us, had some very specific needs, and those people were IT managers. And they started to ask for more security, for some authentication systems, for some management consoles so that they could see all of their users, a lot of things like this. And at the time, we had no idea about those type of problems. Like, we were just young kids. We never worked in a big enterprise. We were never like chief information officer, CIO of a big enterprise, never IT managers. So all those problems were totally unknown to us. But we listened to our customers, and we started to see that actually there were a lot of pain from these consumers, and the product we were giving was almost there solving their problem. So we listened very well, and then we realized that IT managers had a very shitty life. Who is an IT manager here? Okay, just one. Okay, good. Okay, so all of you are happy. And what they had, the system to share files at the time was company FTP. It was always slow, always like out of quota for your storage, or email attachment, you will always lose your versions. Very, very bad. And the other solution they had was very expensive enterprise software, Microsoft SharePoint or Documentum, some very, very heavy software, very old, very slow, very expensive. And also they were not cloud software, it was on-premise software. So it means like you had to buy software to install it on your own servers, in your own data centers, in your building. And the cycles, the sales cycles of this were very long. For example, you will go with Oracle, you will sign a $5 million deal, and then for 5 years, they will give you the software, the upgrades, maintain everything. So very slow, very inefficient, and a lot of cash upfront you have to pay. So IT managers, they had very shitty products. And then we realized there's a huge opportunity for us. We know we cannot sell storage because storage is going to go to zero, but we can sell features, we can sell solutions, we can sell some very new way of collaborating that are going to make enterprises way more efficient than they were before. And so then we did this pivot to the enterprise at this time, and we bet everything on it. And actually, this pivot to the enterprise was brilliant, and it was like the best strategy move of Box, because the market moved exactly in this direction. Today, the consumer market is almost dead, like with like everyone giving free offers, and the enterprise market is huge, and everyone really wants to go there. And so, also another way to look at the strategy. So this pivot was very good, and we had to do this pivot because we didn't crack the consumer markets. And why we didn't crack the consumer market is because actually we were too early. Our vision was people will put files on the cloud. And we thought that in 2 years, so maybe like when in 2006, we would think that in 2008, everyone would just put their files on the internet, that the future will come very, very fast. But actually, it was not the case. It took more 10 years to do this. And today, I would think that people start on the cloud first. If I start a new document, I don't start a Microsoft Word on my desktop. I start directly a Google Doc. And I think most people now do this, most knowledge workers. So we bet on a move to the cloud, but it was too early. Another competitor of us was Dropbox. So I guess you all know Dropbox, right? To synchronize files between computers. And when they started just a little bit after us. And when they started, we were like, cute little startup, but they are never going to succeed. It's stupid because it's all about the desktop. It's only about synchronizing files between your desktop. But the desktop is dead. In 2 years, no one is going to think about the desktop. And we were totally wrong, actually. People still use the desktop for a very, very long time. And the offer they brought was very, very useful for people. And then they did something very smart, is that a lot of people were doing synchronization at this time, but doing very complex synchronization. Like more like if you let an engineer design like the entire system. A lot of parameters, you could sync different folders with different rules. Dropbox, they made it very simple. You can sync only one folder, a lot of restriction, but then sync beautifully, and you never lose a file, very simple. So they executed extremely well on the consumer market, and now they have like this big, huge success we know. So now Dropbox is valued about like $10 billion, very big company. But then, in a way, their success on the consumer market is maybe going to be hard for them at the end, because now they have like almost 500 million users It's huge, incredible success. But they are not going to be able to have twice or 5 times as many users. My mom, for example, is never going to sign up for Dropbox. So then the number of users they have is like limited, and the price they can charge for every gigabyte of storage is going to go down. So their market on the consumer side is going to shrink, and if they want to continue to sustain their valuation and their growth, they have to go to the enterprise market. And so now they have to move to the enterprise market, but with like 3-4 years like later after us. So then what does it mean to move to the enterprise market? It's something like very difficult, and doing a B2B company requires a lot of effort that requires a lot of experience and a lot of things. So what it means to be B2B? It means first, like security. Security is extremely important for the company that trust a box with their most important information. And security is something infinite. You have like a huge systems, and they can be attacked by everywhere. So you need to make sure you don't have any hole in your security anywhere. And it starts from your, of course, like encryption of data. So when you upload a file, it needs to be encrypted using SSL, HTTPS. Then when a file goes to Box, we need to encrypt it. We encrypt it with an encryption key. Then this key is encrypted again. So of course, that's the basic of like security. But then you need to do way more than this. You need to put in place systems where you make sure that your own engineers cannot just go like look in the database, look at the data, at the files of your real users. So you need to get a lot of systems that block your engineers from the real production data. But if there is a bug, you still need your engineers to go look at what happens on the consumer account. So then you need to create some special systems where the client is going to give an authorization of 1 hour for the engineer to look at the data. You need to log everything that happens, every transaction, every IP that connects to everything. Then inside the company, you need to make sure everything has a badge to go to to enter the company, that they use 2-factor authentication for any accounts they have, to teach them about social engineering. Social engineering is when you try to attack a company, not by doing like some hacky stuff, but just like calling and tell, hey, I forgot the password, can you tell me what it is? And actually, a lot of people get tricked by this. You have to train people how to not click on a phishing link in an email. And when you have a company of 1,000 employees, you have to train them all about this. And if one doesn't know how to be secure, then you have a big risk. So basically, security is a lot of energy, and it requires a lot of time to do it correctly. And a lot of people tell you they are secure, but it doesn't mean anything being secure. It's like an infinite list of things. And so then we spend a lot of time to do this, to be secure, to be validated, to get audits from a lot of auditing companies, to get some certifications. ISO 20000, SAS 70, HIPAA, which is a certification in the US that tells you are secure enough to store medical data, so healthcare data. And so it requires a lot of energy. When we have all our teams, they're just working on the next feature they want to build, the next project. If there is a security alert, for example, there is a new vulnerability in this library or whatever, we have all our teams stop what they are doing, they fix the security problem, and then they continue. And this requires a lot of discipline from your company. So if you're a consumer company where it's just like, hey, I can try stuff, I can just do experiments, I can do whatever I want, going to a very disciplined enterprise company, it's very different mindset. Requires really a lot of work. Then to be an enterprise company, you need to sell. You need to sell to sophisticated clients, which are like those IT managers or those CIO. For this, you need to create a lot of things. You need to create very good marketing and very good branding. And so at Box, we did this pretty well from the beginning. When we did the pivot to enterprise, we really branded ourselves like the cool new startup who is going to disrupt old enterprise software. So there's a very famous highway in Silicon Valley called the 101 that goes from San Francisco to Mountain View, Cupertino, where you have like Google, Apple, and everything. And then we put like a big billboard, a big sign telling Box versus SharePoint. And at this point, we were like 30 people. SharePoint was $1 billion business. And we were just like actually pretty arrogant here. and just like say, hey, we are really gonna go disrupt this business. And then we were able to create this brand of the cool startup that made enterprise software sexy. And that is really like how Box is seen in the Silicon Valley, and that has helped us a lot to be like the new thought leader, the new like leader of a new generation of startup that were disrupting all enterprise software like IBM, Oracle, Microsoft, stuff like this. So you need the branding, the positioning. And then you need to have a very good roadmap which is aligned with your clients. So we have spent a lot of time talking with our clients, with CIOs, understand all the problems they have in their companies. So for example, it's pretty hard when you need to deploy a solution like Box to 100,000 users. How do you do it? How do you make sure people are going to use the product? Security or plugging with your existing authentication system. A lot of problems like this. Or clients in Europe who are scared that the American government, the NSA, is going to look at their data. A lot of problems they have like this. So we have spent a lot of time to really listen to them, gather all their requirements, and create a roadmap that is aligned with our vision and their needs. And then we communicate always about this with them. So when a client comes and tells, hey, actually, could you do this little feature for me on the side, something specific would be very helpful for me. We listen to them, and we say, hey, I hear that you want us to do this, that it's helpful for you, but look at everything we want to do. Here, it's our roadmap. We want to solve all those problems, and we think that if we solve those problems, it's going to bring a lot of value to your organization. And then we try to create this partnership with the enterprises, with our clients. We don't try like to force to sell them stuff or to promise stuff. We are really more like with them, showing where we want to go, make sure we want to go in the same direction, try not to be distracted on the side, explain our rationale, our reasons for doing a lot of things. And that is very important because when you have a company, an IT manager that wants to move from their own servers in their building to the cloud, it's extremely scary. And you could lose your job. Like if you mess it up, if you lose the data of the company, if you have security issues, it's going to be very, very, very bad for you. So it's something we understood from the beginning, and we made sure that we did everything to make those IT managers successful. So you really want to make your clients successful, and you should not oversell to them. You should not overpromise, because then they're going to be fucked at some point. They think that you're going to solve their problem, and you're not going to solve it, and they're going to look very bad in the company. And if you create a good relationship with those IT managers, then they become what we call your champion. And in this new enterprise, they're going to be the person talking about Box, how cool it is, how everyone should use it. So you really need to create a trust relationship with them. Something very, very, very important. Then something very important after sales is what we call customer success. So it's like technical support, but also account management, following the account, making sure everything is okay. Because when you sell a cloud solution, it's a recurring fee. Like every month they pay. But if you don't deliver on the solution, that 1 month they just stop paying you and they just migrate to another solution. So if you sell 1,000 licenses of Box and then only 10 are used, it looks very bad because they're going to like reduce the subscription, and it's going to create a negative relationship with them. So you always need to make sure that once you sell, then that they are going to really deploy your solution. They're going to learn how to use your product. And your product, you know it very well. You use it every day. So we dog food at Box. We use Box ourselves. So I know all the products. But a new client doesn't know that, for example, they can use Box on their mobile phone. So the mobile app of Box is incredible. It's way better than Google Drive or Dropbox. And you can do a lot of things on them, like really incredible stuff. So you need to educate the entire company. So you need to help the IT managers of your client to understand all of this. Then you need to look at a lot of metrics, so analytics, to see how many people are using Box, if they're using more the mobile or this integration or not, to know when to call them, to tell them, hey, try this or that. Also, what happens with the business model of Box, which is great, is when we sell for like $100,000 1 year with a client, then in average, the next year we're gonna make 130,000 from them. So usually when you sell to a client, you have what we call a churn. Churn is like you lose clients over time. But when you sell Box, usually you sell Box to one department in one big enterprise, and next year they're gonna also expand to the next team or the next department. So you upgrade, like you upsell to more people. So even if we lose some consumers, we actually gain a lot more. So for this, we need to monitor how the clients are doing and then call them when we see it's a good moment to upsell them, to see them, to show them how they can use Box in different ways. So customer success is extremely important. And in a lot of companies, people look kind of down on support and account management. You just think, yeah, it's just like some paperwork, just some administrative task. Actually, it's extremely important in the cloud. It's really where you create a great relationship with the clients. Yeah, so I talk about marketing, sales, yeah, customer success. Yeah, so all of this. So it requires basically a lot of work to mature as a company. When we started Box, we were like super young, right? We all were less than 25 years old. And then we had to switch from this big enterprise company. So the way we did it actually was pretty lucky. Something happened that was very good. We had one mentor of our company that had mentored us for a few years that actually finally joined the company. Dan Levin, who is now the COO, the Chief Operating Officer. And he was like the old guy, like a big beard. He looked like a big, how do you call this? Lumberjack, like that cuts woods. Crazy guy. And he's like a veteran of Silicon Valley. So he joined us. We are just a bunch of kids. And he joined us. And then what he did is he brought all of his friends who were like VP of engineering at Google, at LinkedIn, or VP of sales at the old company we were disrupting, like Microsoft or Documentum. And then we created like this new, very good team of senior people. And with this, we were able to really move to a more senior, mature company. The way we sell Box historically was we just had like one website with a phone number to call us, advertisement on Google, on the highway, and people will call us. So that is called like inbound sales. And for this, you just need to have like two teams. You just have like a first team that just like listen to the clients, understand their size of the business, make sure they are a legit client, and then they redirect to your different sales team. A sales team for like small business, medium business, and big business. And that's all. But later, when you want to go up the market and tackle very, very big companies like General Electric, Procter & Gamble, Coca-Cola, or whatever, then here you need to do it differently. They are not going to just call you and say, hey, can I use your product for my entire company? The way you sell for big enterprises like this is you hire salespeople that already have connection in all those big enterprises. So what you do, you're going to hire a VP of sales, for example, of Documentum, which was one of those old software we disrupted. And they already have relationship in all those companies where you can sell Box. And so basically then they call back their clients saying, hey, Joe, I have changed company. Now I have a web editor company with a web editor product. Why don't we talk about how we can be helpful for you? So you do this, you get people that already have relationship with all those clients. Yeah, so very, very important to get in the enterprise, in the B2B field. Then a few stories here. So now Box today is still a very horizontal platform. So you can put your files, access from a lot of things, have a lot of APIs so that you can connect to a lot of different systems. Our strategy from the beginning was to be very open, that Box will be connected to anything. So that if you use Box, you put your files on Box, then you can access them everywhere you need to. On Salesforce, on NetSuite, a lot of stuff like this. So we have a culture of collaborating with other companies. And then a lot of weird stuff happens where, for example, we have now what you call frenemies relationship, so like friend and enemies, or a cooperation and competition together with a lot of other companies. So for example, with Microsoft, we will be like doing some partnership with one of their departments, with one of their teams to integrate with their software. And then another team that has like a competitive product with Box is trying to kill us. Salesforce, we have like a big integration into Salesforce. so that you can look at the files related to your clients when you look at their profile. We have a big partnership for them. They even sell Box to their clients. But then at some point, 2 years ago, they tried to start a new product called Chatterbox to kill Box, to be a direct competitor of us. Their product failed, but it was like very weird, where we were partner with them and they tried to kill us at the same time. And it's okay. And it's what happens actually when you live in the world of big tech giants, because they are doing like so many things everywhere. And you think that, hey, Microsoft wants to kill me. But no, Microsoft doesn't give a shit about you. You're just like one little guy. They are in 1,000 of markets. They are doing like consoles, right? Like video games and cloud stuff and like so many things. But just like 1 or 2 of their teams may be interested to partner or not with you. So if they try to compete with you, don't freak out. It's okay. It just means like it's a big market and you have to just still try to have a positive attitude and to try to partner as much as possible. The mentality you need to have when you go into this big market is you have to see that the opportunity is huge. Every company in the world will need to have a very good content management system like Box. So it's okay if we have only like 10% of the market, it's going to be huge. We don't need to win the entire market or anything. It's very, very big. The way to think about it, it's like you are like Christopher Columbus. You need to go like to America, and you want to like colonize America. And the goal is to go like as fast as possible. It's a huge continent. You have so many opportunities, and your goal is to go very far, very fast by listening to your customer, by growing, by scaling. You should not spend your time thinking about the other boats next to you, like the French, the Portuguese, the Spanish. Forget about them. Like, don't try to just go into war against them and match like feature to feature with them. You're not going to win because you gain like 1 or 2% of market share against a competitor. You're going to win because you are going to address this big new market faster than other people. So when you have this abundance mindset, you can handle competition way better. Because at Box, competition was pretty tough. For a few years, no one believed in our business. We had a few competitors at first, like Xdrive, OmniDrive, Sticker, that tried to do the same thing as us. They all died, either because they could not scale their technology, and at the time there were no best practices for scaling technology, so their website would become too slow and explode. Some other because they didn't make enough money, enough revenue. They will give too many features for free, and then not be able to upsell to sell to paying customers. A lot of things like this. So everyone died. We were the only surviving guys. And then later, everyone understood that our business was great, and everyone jumped against us. Microsoft, Google, Salesforce, Dropbox. So when you're competing against those guys, it's pretty crazy. But it's okay. So if you have a startup, it's always going to be like this. First, it's going to be hard because no one believes in what you do. And then it's going to be hard because everyone believes in what you do. So there's never a good time for a startup. Okay, also an interesting story about technology. When we started Box, it was pretty early. It was before Amazon Web Services started. So basically Amazon provides those cloud system, notably S3, the storage system, which allows you to just, if you're a startup, to store files on the internet. It's not like Box where it's a file with a lot of features. It's really like very low-level infrastructure. And we started before it. So what it means is that we had to build our own data centers to put our servers in the data centers, add all the hard drive, put the network together. It sucks because it's complicated. You need to hire people for this. And so then it was more something negative for us, something that took us a lot of energy for nothing. Dropbox started 2 years after Box, after Amazon Web Services opened. So then they could go directly on Amazon Cloud. So it was way easier for them. They didn't have to think about scaling their storage infrastructure and could go much faster. But at the end, actually, it was better for us that things happen this way because we have the total control on our data centers, on our servers. So then what we can do is when we want to pass better regulation for security, we can go in our data centers and change whatever we need to enforce more security. If we were with Amazon S3, we could not do this because we would be like just a little drop in the ocean of customers of Amazon, and they will never enforce all those very constraining, hard to implement security systems. So that's something that actually helped us a lot at the end. So now the new strategy of Box. So I told you we were like very horizontal, try to connect with everything. To gain new markets and new big customers in those markets, what we did, we started to go after different verticals. The three verticals we attacked was healthcare, construction, and entertainment. And what we did is that we didn't build new features for those different industries. We just made sure we did very good marketing and very good sales to sell to those clients, make them understand them so that they could understand better our solution. So when you have to go in a new vertical, you need to do, of course, a lot of marketing. You need to start to put advertisement in the review that the CIO of the construction industry read. You need to go in all their conferences so that you can meet with them, talk with them. You need to understand their language, understand their processes, so that you can tell, oh, okay, your process XYZ, actually you can use Box in this way to solve it. So that they don't have to see how they can use your complex solution to solve their problem. You can directly show them how to solve it. So you customize your message. And also something very important is you need to gain credibility. You need to gain trust. And what we do is spend a lot of time talking with analysts like Forrester, Gartner. So those are like some kind of consultants who give write reports about the industries they work on. So for example, they're going to have an IT review for the healthcare market. And then you need to make sure they know Box, they understand the vision, they understand how you differentiate from your competitors. So then they can write very nice reports telling, hey, for the construction markets, the best mobile solution is Box. So a lot of time requires a lot of investment, but it's what you need to gain like those B2B markets. So healthcare is very big for us, and it's incredible the type of things we are enabling companies to do. So now the Stanford Hospital, which is a very big hospital in Silicon Valley, runs on Box for all the file sharing. And since we're secure enough to store medical data, they can really share the patient information on Box. And processes that will take like 3 weeks of sending files from using like either the old system or email attachment to the right people, from 3 weeks now, it will take like a few minutes. So we enabled the entire organization to work way, way faster. A very good example is when you do a scanner, like an MRI, it's a lot of like scans of like your head, for example, a lot of files. They are very complicated files with a very varied systems, and to be able to read them, to really see like the visual, historically, still today, you need to actually go to the hospital, go to a big machine that you buy. It's almost like $1 million. And here you can look at the files. So it's like an arcade or something like this. With Box, we acquired like a small company that specialized in visualizing those files in the cloud. So we have those weird files. We convert them in very nice PDF or images. And now you can go on Box and see your scanner images. So it means like a doctor can now like just receive a notification 1 minute after you took the scan, and see directly the result on her like iPhone or iPad. It's incredible the kind of things you can do, really enabling companies to do their workflow way, way, way faster. Construction, same thing. You're an architect, like you are the project manager of the construction. You can get the latest map, the plan, blueprint of the construction directly online, the latest version. If you work like on a weird area in the middle of the countryside, you can have like some offline saving of your files so that you can still have them when you don't have connections. Entertainment industry, Box is very big in Hollywood actually, which is pretty cool because when you have like movie producer or music producer, they want to share, for example, the next video clip, the video of Beyoncé, for example, they share it on Box. Because on Box, they can know exactly who accessed the file, from which IP, and so they can prevent leaks way better than just like sending by Dropbox or email attachment, stuff like this. And so then we have then some new other verticals to attack, banking, consulting, all this kind of stuff. But it's very interesting to see that we still have an horizontal product and just different marketing for those different verticals. And then actually we still want to give more value to those enterprises. And we have a very sophisticated API platform. And what we want to do, we want to encourage some developers, enterprise application developers, to build on Box platform. And one example is like I am an iOS developer. I'm going to build an iPad app, maybe for salespeople that are on the field, where this is going to be connected to Salesforce. It's going to be connected to the authentication system of my own company. It's going to be connected to Box. And here I use like Box as a backend to create a very custom application for my company. And then you allow big companies to create their own sophisticated software, and you are just like a brick in their system, and you try to be the best brick possible for the field you want to solve. So we started to, we partner with some VC that are going to invest, I don't know how much, maybe like $40 million into startups that are going to use Box as a backend. A lot of other startups are doing this. For example, Stripe, the credit card like payment company, they actually they're also giving a lot of money to companies that use them as their payment system. You have a lot of this new trend in Silicon Valley to encourage to create your new ecosystem. Yes, basically that's it about like the general like history of Box and the competition of Box. So yeah, so Box went public 6 months ago. Now we have like a very good strategy. It was the right strategy from a very long time. We are prepared to really kill this market. The competitive landscape today, so Dropbox, not very a competitor directly because they are too much on the consumer market, and to change into an enterprise company is going to take so much time and a very big change of mindset. Google, they are annoying for small businesses because when you start a startup, you start with Gmail and generally GDoc, right? But later, it's more, you have more people and Box starts to be useful. Google, they are not good at selling to enterprises because their mindset is we are going to solve all the problems of the world. Whoa, that's a big one. With data and algorithms. And it's going to be servers that are going to solve people's problems. Google is not a company that talks to people one-to-one, right? So if you call Google, you're an IT manager, you want someone to help you with your integration and stuff, you have no one to answer the phone. So Google, not very a big threat into the big enterprise market. But then, and that's just my personal opinion, the biggest competitor for Box, I think, is going to be Microsoft. So Microsoft was the best company in the world in the 80s and 90s. They sold software to every IT manager in the world. So they were like the best enterprise sales company in the world. Then they kind of fucked it up in the from 2000 to 2010, right? But then for the past 2 years, since Satya Nadella became the new CEO, he has given a new energy to the company, made the company less arrogant. The vision of Microsoft before was to be a suite model where they sell you everything from the operating system, the software on top of it, everything. Now they know they cannot be the best at everything, so they start to partner with a lot of other systems and to be part of the ecosystem instead of wanting to kill it all. So for example, crazy stuff that Microsoft did was to develop Word and Excel for iPad. It's totally mind-blowing when it happened like a year ago. Before, they will never do this, never do something like for Apple like this. And you have a lot of things like this where they open, they connect with everyone, and now they start basically to be better at understanding the cloud, this new mindset. And since they have fixed their technology, they are getting better at UX and UI, and they have this huge experience selling to company, I think Microsoft is going to be like a very strong competitor. Yes. A company called Ignite. Have you ever heard of it? Yes. So Ignite, they are also one of the competitors. They don't have. They're a pretty good one, yeah. But they, how do you say it? I don't know. I could go into the detail about how they are different. But yeah, it's one of the players in the market. I think they focus more on some complex enterprise systems, more like old school, but they solve it very well. They are less about like collaboration, access everywhere, workflows like we do. But there's place for everyone. So I'm sure it's going to be like a billion-dollar company. Maybe it is today or at some point, yeah. Yeah, so that's it. And so then like Box is doing very well. When we started, and maybe I'm going to talk more about this during the questions, we were super young. We didn't know anything. The good thing that we knew we didn't know. So we were not arrogant. We were like self-learners. And when people from other companies joined us, we really learned from them. So for example, when we got the VP of engineering from Google, Samuel Schillaci, who was the guy who did a Google Doc and then was the boss of Gmail, GDoc, everything, he brought all the best practices from Google to Box, and people from LinkedIn, from Microsoft. So we started from like zero experience to learning a lot. We did a lot of mistakes in the beginning. So for example, if you're an engineer, it's going to make you laugh, but we didn't write one single unit test for like 4 years. And then the first time we wrote it, we were like, holy shit, it's new, like how does it work? It's crazy. A lot of things like this. We fucked it up a lot. We hired a lot of the wrong people. Very tough, but then every mistake we did, we learned a lot from it to make sure it doesn't happen anymore. And then we matured very, very, very fast, and we were able to build an incredible company with an incredible culture, with a lot of the right processes to give the right incentive to people, to empower them, to select the good people and everything. And our Box has a very, very good culture. We have one of the strongest engineering team in the entire valley. And now I felt that, okay, Box is good. The baby is now like old enough to go to college, and I can just like leave and move back to France. So that's basically the story of Box. And now we can go to questions, and I have a lot of things to tell about like how we grow, things to tell about how we grow, we change the culture, a lot of things like this. Yeah. Okay.
How did you, I mean, probably you are one of the first engineers in the Box, but what is your hiring process? I mean, you hired lots of engineers. Is there something special sauce, I mean, on that?
Yeah. So for hiring, so at the beginning we didn't know how to hire. Hiring is the hardest thing possible. You have to judge someone, to judge how they're gonna be impactful in the team by seeing them only 1 hour. Super hard. And when you have more experience and you start to think, oh, okay, I understood how it works, and then later you make a big mistake again and you realize, holy shit, I still don't know anything. So hiring, hardest thing possible. So we did a lot of mistakes hiring the wrong people. What we did, we hired a few smart assholes. So those people, I'm sure you know one, they are very smart, brilliant, and they are right 90% of the time. Great. And they work fast, they are aggressive, everything. And then the 10% of the time when they are wrong, impossible to reason with them, impossible to communicate. They don't want to hold, they don't want to accept that they were wrong, and they are focused on being right first. They don't focus on coming to the right solution as fast as possible, which is two different mindsets. One is ego-based, the other one is goal-based. And then it's horrible because you really see when they work well, they work so freaking well, and so you really want them. But then when it doesn't work, they fuck up your entire team, and everyone is stressed. And each time they have to go talk to this person, they don't want to share information because they know they feel the other one are going to be defensive. It's very, very tough. And since we were nice guys, because the spirit of Box was really like a bunch of friends, very nice, very not arrogant, very like helping each other, we tried to help them and negotiate and like not negotiate, being like some like say, hey, sorry, like this guy didn't mean that, he meant that instead, like helping, like doing like some like counseling, almost like wedding marriage counseling, like to help those disputes all the time. Yeah, exactly. And it was draining our energy so much. Finally, we fired those people. Then we got vaccinated, never again. So then we built a system where we would make sure we never hire people like this. Every startup in the Silicon Valley tells you that. We have a no asshole policy. We look for culture. It's okay. Box is really at the top. I can really tell you this. And so what we do when you have an interview of an engineer, usually it's like very tough day, like 5 interviews of 1 hour. You check like knowledge about database, networking, programming, and every engineer who interviews the guy or the girl gives 2 grades at the end. Technical grade, like want to hire or not, depending on the technical skills, and cultural, want to hire or not, on the cultural, on the communication skills. And then after that, the next day, everyone gathers, gives all their grades, like yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And then the hiring manager decides if you hire or not. By the way, little parenthesis, it's very good that you know exactly what you are looking for when you hire, so that then after you get like the feedback from the interviewers, you can decide right away if you want this person or not, and then you send an offer right away. Especially in Silicon Valley, because if you wait 2 days, during those 2 days, your candidate is going to get an offer from Facebook, Google, LinkedIn. So you have to be very, very fast. And even sometimes you do it at night, just after the last interview. And almost you give an offer before the person leaves the building. It's like how the talent war is crazy in Silicon Valley. And you do this. And if the person is very smart, PhD at Stanford, work at Google for 5 years, whatever, if you feel they are a little bit of an asshole, they're a little bit arrogant, you don't hire them. And it requires a lot of discipline because you let a lot of very good talents go on the side. But those guys are going to have a negative impact on your company. So you should really like stand strongly. A little example. You give a little puzzle of programming. You tell, for example, like, hey, go on the whiteboard and program an algorithm to do to call elevators in a building and the algorithm about which elevator should go where, right? They write the thing, blah, 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 blah. And then you see they are actually doing a mistake or they forgot about something that's going to have a big impact. And you just tell like, oh, it's nice, and have you thought about X? And then you see how they react. Are they like, oh, shit, someone is talking to me. A human being is wanting to exchange information with me. I'm going to listen to this person, get information, listen, so that I can solve the problem better. And that's great. Or is the person going to say, no, wait, I'm almost there, I'm almost finished, let me finish. And they want like to state on their ego, on their first idea, and they want to be right more than finding the solution fast. And we have developed a very, we are like very mature about seeing those little details in the way people communicate, in the way people listen to you, the type of questions they ask you at the end, like are they really interested talking with you as a human being, or do they just like kind of dismiss you? You can see a lot of stuff like this, and you need to do this. You need to become more knowledgeable with this kind of thing so that you can hire good people. So we start like this with hiring, and then later it's very good to give feedback to your employees all the time. So the more biggest system we have is performance reviews. So I guess you all have performance reviews, not in startup, but in bigger companies. Usually it's like what, a yearly performance review, something like this? What?
Aren't they quarterly?
Yeah, so then the best practice is more to do quarterly. And quarterly, you tell people, hey, in those 3 months, here's what you have done. Here's your impact. Does your impact match with what we expect from your title or your position in the company? And here you need to be like give very good feedback about what they're doing right and wrong. And here you can correct a lot of bad behaviors. For example, very smart people, but actually they never communicate. You can really give here like very strong feedback at this point. So that's like the first like safety level you need to have. It's something you need to start to have when you are more like about like 30 or 50 people, to start to have like titles and start to have performance review, because you're gonna have cases where you have some engineer that has been here for like 3 years and they feel like senior, and then you're gonna hire a new engineer, come from another cool company, and maybe they're gonna have like a higher salary because they're able to negotiate better. And then you're gonna have like different people that have different expectations, different legitimacy in the company, and you need to make sure that they're all evaluated in a fair way so that they can be compensated in a fair way. So then at this point, you need to start to create those levels and performance reviews. But then, so it's to do later, and a lot of things to do right. You need to make sure that you calibrate between all the teams, that you don't have a team when it's easy to have like a good grade, so that everyone has the same vision of what a junior engineer should do, what a senior engineer should do, etc. But then the best thing you have to do is, for me, really the best practice above all of them is a one-on-one. How many of you do a one-on-ones here? You know what it is? So the one-on-one is a meeting you do every 2 weeks with your manager. 30 minutes. What you don't talk about your tasks. You don't say, hey, like the manager doesn't ask, like, what is the status on task A? Have you told Cindy about task B? You don't do any of this, right? Because this should be done by all your systems like Trello, Pivotal, Asana, like all your task management system. You ask more like personal questions and more like motivational questions like, hey, how are you doing? How do you think the team is doing? What should I do differently to help the team? Is there something I should do to help you? Are you happy with the assignment you have? What is the next thing you would like to do after? Where do you see yourself in 2 years? All this kind of stuff. And you do this every 2 weeks. And you start to create trust between the manager. The manager is not someone above the team that dictates the team what to do. The manager in the box or the Silicon Valley mindset is someone under the team that is a resource to fix the problems that the team cannot fix. So during this time, you can tell your manager, hey, I have an issue with the product manager, we don't get along together, stuff like this. Like hard problems that people are not gonna just like talk about it like this, or they're gonna talk about it when it's really too late and when they are ready to quit. So you need to detect all those problems, those little frustration from the beginning. And engineers, they are very hard to manage. Why? Because they are super smart, they are very high standard about how things should be perfect, and life is not perfect. So they are always pretty disappointed with life. And so you need to really encourage them to see how they can fix problems, to show them that, hey, we can talk about problems, even human relationship problems, and we can fix them together. So you do this one-on-one, and it's a time where the manager can give a lot of feedback to the employee and tell, hey, it's great what you have done here. I see a few things that you could have done differently. Give feedback. So good feedback is 3 things, is timely, actionable, and factual. So you need to tell like very fast after the people did a mistake and not like 3 months later at the performance review. Hey, during this meeting, you said this at this time, then it had this effect on other people and the meeting went in a bad direction. Next time, like you can do this differently. So like facts, you don't attack the person, you don't tell, hey, you are bad at communication. You tell, hey, at this particular moment, you did things that didn't work well. So factual, timely, you tell very fast, and actionable, of course, you only tell things that you can help people improve. You cannot tell someone, hey, you're too short or too tall, right? They cannot do anything about it. And during this time, you give a lot of feedback, notably about communication. And you're always going to have little communication problems during the team. People that have a slightly bad attitude sometimes, people that do a little bit of pushback at this time, people that could take more leadership at some point because they have all the skills, all the resources to do it. So you do that like every 2 weeks. So filter very hard with hire, and then feedback all the time, at least every 2 weeks. And I even think, to be extreme, a good manager should give feedback in the next 24 hours all the time. Always, always, always fast, 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 fast. It's horrible when you know that you have been doing something bad for like 5 months and everyone hates you and you just learn it now. Very, very hard. People want to have an opportunity to change and to improve. Okay, so it was a long answer to the thing.
I had a question. But how do you assess an idea? What I mean is that now it's the trend, isn't it? Everybody have their own startup companies. Almost everybody thinks of an idea to do a startup company. How would you assess if the idea would be successful, and what happened in box? Because everything I've listened from you, it looked like a bit of a luck and a little bit of help, and it just, you're being at the right place at the right time. Do you have any idea or any insight that you can share with us?
Yeah.
That will tell the person that your company will be successful or you're on the right track?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's very difficult, right? And it's what every VC in the world is trying to figure out, right? So for Box, you could see like, yeah, it's weird. So first, we actually had a right vision. Everything would move to the cloud. So it was, in a way, in a good vision, in a good market in some ways, right? But then we got kind of lucky to be able to be there at the right time. We were slightly too early, but to survive long enough, have experience and pivot to the right time. And then very good execution after we did the pivot. So yeah, it's a be here at the right time, luck, and then some merit with the execution. So it's a mix of all of this, right? Then new ideas, I don't know. So yeah, today everyone wants to do their startup. And I think it's a little bit, it's great and stupid. I think it's great because we need more entrepreneurial spirit. We need a new generation of people to really try their startup. They're gonna fail, they're gonna learn a lot, and then we're gonna have more mature people that can solve big problems. So that is good. Let's all those people like fail their startups. But here, like, I just come back like from Southeast Asia. So I've been like all the different markets, like Singapore, Hong Kong, Kuala Lumpur, Bangalore, everything. Here you have like so many opportunities because a lot of the basic needs are not met yet. Offline commerce is not here, online commerce is not here, payments are not there, transportation is not there, like so many opportunities. So here it's not very hard to see that if the startup are really gonna deliver on this, that there's a huge value they're gonna create and a lot of value they're gonna be able to capture from it. So in all those emerging markets, I think it's pretty easy to see what is a good idea and what is a bad idea. Then it's harder when you look at more like Silicon Valley startups where all the basic needs have been met yet. And then it's just like nice to have things on top of it, right? For example, I'm gonna do like a little, like a Foursquare or Meerkat or something like this. It's kind of cool, it can be huge or not, but does it solve a real need? It's very hard, and I know that no one knows how to figure this out. Like crazy consumer companies, you never know where you can go. I think that you can know in the B2B market way better what is a good idea. Because B2B is complex. Every industry has very complex systems. And here, if you know them very well, you can see very easily where the inefficiencies are. And if you have a good team that has the technical skills, the marketing skills, sales skills to go fix it, I think you can invest like pretty easily in those companies. But that's just like my personal vision. You can see also very what I don't like with entrepreneurs. One thing I don't like that I see sometimes in entrepreneurs is entrepreneurs that didn't do their homework, that want to do this product, but they're just saying, oh, it could be cool to do this product, but they have not spent a lot of time understanding exactly what values they want to add, exactly how they're different from competitors, to have their secrets, how Peter Thiel called it in his book 0 to 1. And entrepreneurs should spend more time thinking about what is their secret, what is the little thing that explain why they're going to be successful. It makes sense. Yeah.
Should they tell the secret?
Yes. So because usually the secret is something that you see, but a lot of people don't believe. So your problem is more going to be to convince people about this secret than to have people selling it. But usually if you have a good secret, so you need to tell people and hear the feedback of people. When you hear feedback of people, something I see with entrepreneurs, usually the first reaction of an entrepreneur when they get like negative feedback about their idea or someone tells them about a competitor, they want to to defend themselves. They say, oh, no, but I'm going to do it this way. Or, oh, no, we are different, we are better and stuff. And that's a bad attitude. Your goal when you get feedback is not to convince the other people that you are right. You don't have to convince anything. The only thing you have to convince in the market in 3 months once you have sent your product. But you have to listen and to make sure any piece of information that this person has, you don't have, you get it. So learning a lot, listening a lot is very, very important. And I don't see many entrepreneurs, at least young entrepreneurs, being good at doing this. Yeah. Do you have more questions about this, or it's good? Yeah.
How big are your teams, and who solves the organizational impediments, and do you use automated testing and stuff?
Yeah. Okay, so the team at Box. So Box is like 1,300 people, 300 engineers. We have mostly teams between like 6 to 8 people. a lot of them like this, and they are like one Scrum team each. Sometimes we have team of like 15 people, and then we do like 3 Scrum team inside, and people rotate between the different teams every now and then. And for example, backend, we have about like 10 teams of 10 people, something like this. Everyone responsible of one big part of the architecture. All of this work pretty well. What is tough is dealing with cross dependencies between teams. So when you start to be big, you need to do like big projects, do big refactoring. So it means like big reorganization of the code, rebuilding everything. And then you need to have like one team waiting for another team to finish something and need to wait for another thing. So it's a lot of work for program managers. So we have a few program managers, but you need them only when you are like really at least like 50 people, like managing all the dependencies. And that's a job that sucks. You need to be in a lot of meetings and monitoring everything. Just one little thing that is good, a little best practice I have seen about dependency. Sometimes you have like a backend team and a front-end team, right? And the front-end needs a new thing from the backend, from the API. For example, I have the name of the user, but I need also the address, right? And then they need to ask the backend team, hey, can you do this for me? So you create like dependencies between teams. And then the backend team need to add this to their Scrum task and deliver later, right? And it sucks. Everyone hates it, a lot of friction. Something I've seen that works very well is you take your engineer from your front-end team, your mobile team, and you make them join the backend team for one sprint. They learn the process of the team, they learn the code base, they write their code. Usually if your architecture is pretty well done, you just need to add like one line here, one line here, one line here. It's code reviewed, it's pushed, and then everything is done following all the best practices and everything. And then what happens is that next week, just when it's finished, the girl comes back to the mobile team and can continue the feature. And then what happens? Oh shit, I needed the address, but as well the telephone number. And here it's much better. You don't have to bother the backend team. You can directly do it yourself, add it, code review, and it works very well. Then automated testing, yeah, we have a lot of them. A lot of experience with testing. Testing is very hard. It's the second hardest thing. Hardest hiring, interviewing, and second writing tests. Because writing tests are very complex. They require a lot of time to do. So you have to be very clear about how much value you get from each test. Sometimes they are easy to write, but very hard to maintain when you change. Sometimes unit tests are very important because every function has some like little piece of algorithm that is complex, so you want to check this. Sometimes unit tests are useless because you are just doing a conversion layer that doesn't bring any logic. But actually, you want to make sure more it's like end-to-end that you have something right, so you need more like integration test. Testing very, very difficult. But if you understand that testing is difficult, it's good. It means that you have understood a big part of software programming. Yeah. Sorry.
So you said you mentioned Scrum. Do you use the Scrum methodology, and how do you do it in a big team?
Yeah. So Scrum, what we do, we let every team do whatever they want with Scrum. We have spent time educating them about what is Scrum, and then we let them do. My own opinion of Scrum, the only thing that matters is to do sprints and have a retrospective. And from the retrospective is a meeting, so like every sprint, like 2 weeks, 30 minutes, 1 hour, where the team tells everything that was bad and everything that was good in the past 2 weeks. Bad, for example, the product requirements from the product manager were not good. We built the wrong thing and lost time. Bad, the testing server were too slow. We had to wait 5 minutes each time. Good, the new intern is kicking ass and is onboarded very fast. The new documentation is very helpful for the onboarding process, stuff like this. And then you decide what you want to do about the bad things and what you want to improve. And then what you do, you look at the different things and you say, okay, now we are gonna fix those things, and you add a few tasks for the next sprint. So you always have this discipline of improving sprint after sprint. And even if it's not a priority, if, for example, adding a new unit automated test, it's not a priority, it's not helping the product going in the right direction, it's still helping the team going in the right direction. And basically, a very good thing to remember is sometimes people are too busy cutting wood to sharpen their saw or sharpen their axe. You have to think you have to sharpen your saw, sharpen your axe all the time so that you can cut wood faster. So always take the time to do the retrospective. And then from the retrospective, what happens is people are going to see, hey, we had this problem of bad communication. So then maybe we need to add a meeting regularly that is going to solve this problem and we're not going to have this communication problem. Or, hey, stand-ups, actually, no one listened to the stand-ups. There is no really new information we get from it. We are happy with just the online Trello board, so let's stop the stand-ups. And I think it's the right way to think about this. You let the team decide what is good and what is important for the productivity of the team. But for this, you need to have the team understand exactly in the Scrum rituals, in the Scrum meetings, what is expected from this meeting, what you need to have as input, and what you need to get as output. And if you see you don't get really those output, just stop the meeting. So then we have people that do Scrum in a very, very different ways, but we still give them this requirement that, hey guys, you have to think about your processes. You are in charge of it. The team is responsible for the processes. No one else is going to tell you how to be efficient. It's your responsibility to do it correctly. So it's how we do Scrum at Box. And I think I'm going to do this for my next startup. I like this process a lot. Yeah.
I think you said 300 engineers in your company, yes? So I'm also an engineer. That is why now I'm answering this question. For example, if I apply to your company, when you are looking at my technical skills, what would you choose? What should I do? Or now, for example, for future, maybe not now, but what should I learn and come you? How you ask?
So what do you do to join Box?
No,
To create the interest of the...
your company or another company
Yeah.
like this company, yes?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean just technical skills, for example.
Yeah, yeah.
It's important for students.
Yeah, yeah. So it's complicated. So first, like good engineers, they find very easily a place to work. No problem about this. Except if you are not American and you want to work in Silicon Valley, it's very hard. Visas are horrible. I went through like all type of visas to stay at Box. Like I fought very, very hard. And I think as long as the visa, the immigration laws don't change in the US, we are good here in Istanbul, in Paris. If one day like Barack Obama gives visas to all engineers, we are fucked. That they're all gonna go to the US and it's gonna be very hard. So good engineers, no problem. Then the question is like, are you really a good engineer? Because a lot of engineers think, hey, I know technology very well. I'm very comfortable with this technology. Therefore, I'm a senior engineer. Actually, being a senior engineer means way more things. So actually, you can look online, like what are the traits of a senior engineer. It's a lot about like understanding business needs, being able to mentor people, balancing short-term and long-term, communication skills, all those stuff that are way more than just like technology. Then to be detected, you need, of course, like if you work like at better companies, it's going to be way better, like easier to have like the interest of at least the recruiter. You can create your technical brand. So the technical brand is basically how you market yourself technically. So then if you have like open source software, if you contribute to open source softwares, if you write a blog post, if you answer a question on Quora, or on Stack Overflow, then it's like very good. You need to make yourself like visible. And make sure you learn all the time also. Because it's very easy to plateau as an engineer and you just like do the same thing over and over, blah, 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 blah. There's a lot of way to improve. Like read a lot of books. You should read like the 10 best books about programming, like a clean code or refactoring, like some names of some books like this. There's a lot of things you can do to really like start to be like way like above other senior developers that are just like plateauing. Does it make sense? Yeah. Yeah, so a lot of little things like this. Oh, and also one thing, recruiting. Half of the people we recruit at Box is not from like online job classifieds or stuff like this, or people that send us resume, is through the network, through referrals. It's way better to get people that some of your employees already know. For example, hey, I worked at Microsoft, now I work at Box. a few years later, I know like those guys from Microsoft, they were great. I ask them, hey, how are you doing? Maybe do you want to join Box? That is great because you know those people who are very good and you don't have to judge them in 1 hour of interview. You can know like from a lot of past experience. And you want to encourage also your engineers, all your employees to bring people from their network. And what we do, we give a big bonus. So at Box, if one of your friends join Box and stay like 3 months or something, you earn like $10,000, something like this. It's huge, but actually it's smaller than the price you need to pay recruiters or external recruiters to get a good candidate. So my point here is your network. You have to know like what startup your friends are working at, know what startups are doing well, go to the one that work well. Oh, and also one thing is I think everyone wants to be a CEO or CTO right now. It's pretty cool, right? I don't think it's the right choice. I think the best thing to do is to join one company that is like skyrocketing. There are maybe like 50 people that just raise like their big round of funding. Join them because you know they're going in the right direction. You're gonna learn so much, and then later you have all the time in life to do your own startup. When you start by yourself, you're gonna have no one to mentor you. Even if you're an accelerator, you're gonna learn, but not as much as if you are with a lot of smart people around you. So that's my advice for young people outside of college. Yeah.
As you mentioned, Quora, I had seen there a response from CEO of the Uber that says that they had some security issues with bugs, and they're thinking about switching into Dropbox. Is it true?
I think I know the post you talk about is like from like 2 years ago, something like this. I don't think about security. That was maybe with like the synchronization, something like this. Yeah.
After this post, after 1 year, I saw the IPO values of the Box company went down. From 2.2 billion to 1.6 billion, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Is it you lost your customers or why?
Oh no. Okay, so one thing I learned. So I went through the process of going public, of doing an IPO. Wow, like I learned so much. So the first thing I learned is your market cap has nothing to do with how well you're doing. And every day you see the stock doing like up, 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 up. Nothing has changed about your business. You didn't lose like one customer. There was like not like one big news that will be bad news or good news for you. It just depends on if people need to get liquidity, like sell stocks or buy stock for their own strategy. There's nothing to do with you. Plus then you have like the big like market trend. So when like China is going down, like all the stock market goes with it. So at first I was like very stressed, like holy shit, it sucks. Or someday we will have some big announcement like, hey, we partnered with IBM, who's gonna sell Box to all their clients. So huge opportunity for Box. The stock didn't move like this at all. So after that, I was like, okay, I don't give a shit about the stock price. It doesn't mean anything on the short term. On the long term, it means something, right? It's gonna be interesting to see Box in 2 years, 5 years. But if you're stressed about the stock of your own company every day, you're gonna get crazy. Yeah.
You take, I suppose, 150 million investment in last year, right?
Yes, I think in total we raised more than $500 million. Yeah.
Okay. Why do you need this after the 7 investment?
Okay. So so what is very particular about the business model of Box? It's enterprise SaaS. So the way you sell to big enterprises is acquisition cost is high. It's very complex product, very complex problems. You need to create the relationship and stuff. So if a client is going to give you $100,000, right, the first year, maybe actually you need to pay $150,000. So like 50% more to acquire it the first year. But what happens is that the next year, so it was 100, then 130, 200, like they're going to give you more money over years in recurring. So you have to pay a lot of money upfront to acquire the company. But after that, the recurring aspect plus the upsell aspect makes that you gain a lot of money later. So it means you need to invest. And you need to invest a lot of money to acquire all those customers. And to be here the first one, you have to plant your flag. It's like a land grab. customer acquisition, because once they have switched to your system, they're not going to just go to Dropbox or Google Drive because they have a slightly better feature, right? They're going to change only if they are way better. So then it means they're never going to change. So it means we have to burn a lot of cash for marketing and sales acquisition, but it's going to pay on the long term. Yeah, two, like the first one, and then we're going to the second one.
I have a question about your mobile aspect of Box. You said that Box's mobile application is superior to other similar applications.
Yeah.
Did you first prepare the application and push it to clients, or it was on initial demand for a mobile application?
So it's just a story about the mobile application for Box. Actually, we acquired a company, a one-person startup. I had a French guy actually who went and built like a beautiful app just by himself, and then he went to the Silicon Valley to talk to Box, Dropbox, G Drive to get maybe some partnerships with them to use them as a backend for his app. And he came to see me through a friend, and I saw his app. I said, okay, stay in this office. I went to talk to the CEO, to the VP of engineering. Say, hey, come, you need to talk to this guy. And so then they saw him the same day. And then like 2 weeks later, we had like an offer to acquire his company because it was a beautiful design. Like, and then it was a great acquisition because like 6 months later, we released the new app with all of its beautiful features and all the complex enterprise security features we had. And it's great because usually when you have acquisitions, the promise is big, but actually it takes a lot of time to merge the teams, to merge the different cultures, and to really deliver. So yeah, it was a beautiful acquisition for Box.
Were you looking to build a mobile application, or did you start because the offer was too good?
Oh, no, we had a mobile app from the beginning. And actually, mobile was one of the things we were the first to do because we want people to have access to their files from everywhere. So we do a lot of crazy stuff so we are on iOS, Android. We are even like on Windows 8. We are like the first company to be on Windows 8. We are still on BlackBerry. We need to be everywhere. And actually, when iPhone and iPad came into the market, like 7 years ago or something, it was a great opportunity for us because we were on those platforms, whereas Microsoft SharePoint was not on this platform. So for us, mobile was super important from the beginning.
One more follow-up question. Like what I've seen or heard, there's already a prejudice against cloud-based solutions in terms of security, even with applications like Box, which value proposition is security, and combining that with mobile aspect seems like it would increase the distrust. Do you think the clients are you satisfied with the usage of mobile? Is that used of frequent?
Yeah. Okay, so security in mobile. So first, there's something counterintuitive, but now your data is more secure on the cloud than on your enterprise servers. On your enterprise servers, you have old, outdated software. Your IT team is just like some random IT guys. At Box, we have like a team of like 30 or 50 experts in security. They know all the best practices. They scan everything and stuff. So the data is more secure in the cloud, and we log everything. We know exactly what happened. Before, in your enterprise, your files were on a USB key, on the laptop of someone, or a lot of things like this, and you could not control your data. Now on Box, you can control your data way more. Also, then with mobile, we have partnerships with some mobile security companies that do some little like security capsule on your phone, so you can still use your personal phone, but then you have this security capsule where you have all the data of the enterprise. It's here, and it's very separated. So you make sure that the enterprise cannot look at your personal data, but the enterprise has a big control on this. The company is called like Iron Mobile or Mobile Iron. I always forget which order it is. A lot of stuff like this. So then you can delete the data remotely. You can say, oh, maybe this data is only accessible when you are in this country or not this country. So you can do a lot of security like this. Yeah. It's okay, or do you have more questions about this?
It's all right.
Okay. Yeah.
How is working with Aaron?
Okay, so Aaron Levy, the CEO of Box, is an incredible guy. In a way, he's a little bit like the new Steve Jobs of the Silicon Valley, like super inspirational, super smart, but sort of extremely funny. You should really follow him on Twitter. He's like super funny. Crazy guy. So at the beginning of Box, I worked very closely with him, and it was like so much fun. We will be like up all night thinking about the future of technology in the cloud and integration and work. So very, very closely with him. But then when we started to come to the enterprise and get bigger, I will not work with him a lot anymore. And today, like his life is crazy. So if you are the CEO of a B2B business, it's not fun because actually you need to go see all your clients. You need to go there to, the CEO needs to be here when you have a big client all the time to sell, but then also later regularly to check the roadmap is good and everything. So now he's like flying every week to the entire world. So very, very tiring. And his work hours are crazy. So he wakes up at 10, okay, pretty late. But actually it's at 10. Then he has meetings until 7 at night. Okay, so like 9 hours of meeting, like a good day of work. Then he sleeps like for half an hour, and then he starts a second day like from 8 to 2 in the morning, just by himself, and he does like all his email strategy and stuff. So basically he does like 2 days of work per day. Like it's very, very, very hard. I hope I never have to do this. Yeah.
And you know also the French ecosystem, internet culture. What are the differences? Do you think that the European kind of way internet entrepreneurs and startups has to develop and grow for the valley culture, if you compare with them?
Yeah. Okay, so the French ecosystem. So I left France like 10 years ago when there was like almost nothing, and now I'm coming back because a lot of things start to be good. A lot of things that were bad with previously with the French ecosystem was first the culture. France is not very culture of entrepreneurship. Like if you fail, you have a big stigma. It's better to be just associated with like big names, big company, big schools, and it's more about like this type of pedigree that you need to have with no failure. Also, some VCs were not very good at the beginning in France and kind of like scammed a lot of entrepreneurs. And then entrepreneurs got very scared to raise venture capital. Because in France, French entrepreneurs were really wanted to keep the ownership of the company because they were scared. And a lot of companies that could have become very big did not because they didn't then raise money at the right time to really grow like Silicon Valley startup not how to do. But now it's better. VCs are more mature and entrepreneurs are more mature about knowing when it's a good idea to bootstrap and when it's a good idea to raise money. And the cultural things has changed. Like you have like so much influence from Silicon Valley, right? So you have like the story of Steve Jobs, of Mark Zuckerberg, of the Silicon Valley TV show, right? Everything. So now young people want to be to do startups, a lot of excitement. So everything has changed, and you have a lot of opportunities there. The very good thing is that what Silicon Valley has brought to the world is like a lot of things, like open source software, cloud infrastructure, best practices for like Scrum, project management, product hunt, right? So that you can see like every day what's happening in the product world. So all those things actually, it's about like sharing information on the entire world. And now you have access from this like everywhere. And in every little ecosystem in the world, you have access to this. So it's a huge advantage that Silicon Valley had before that now everyone has. So I think you have a lot of opportunities in every ecosystem to use your local talent with all the best practices of the Silicon Valley, adapt them a little bit, and and go very far. Okay. One last question, and then we stop. Okay.
What are your next plans now?
Okay, so I'm gonna move back to France. Just going to Tel Aviv to a DLD like next week, and after that start a new company with my best friend who's leaving Google, mostly B2B with machine learning. That's the general direction I want to go to. I'm gonna see what happens then, and also I'm gonna spend some time in Paris with the startups of the best VCs and incubator. I'm gonna join the family. It's like the YC of France, and mentor a little bit like startups who are growing and people that need help growing their scaling their infrastructure and culture. Yeah, so it's gonna be fun coming back home and bringing a lot of best practices.
Can I ask a final question?
Yeah.
Do we really universities for programming in the future?
Do you need what? Sorry.
Universities.
for programming?
Yeah, because the founders, 4 of them is dropout, and you know many of I mean, okay, not in terms of the computer science, okay, just for programming.
Yeah.
Because you know a lot of the stuff, you know, Coursera, Udemy, you know, the people start programming in age of 12, and then they have all the videos, and if they do some stuff, and then will they need university?
Yeah, I don't know. It's more like then a question about education and what's the best way to educate people. Programming, you can do it all by yourself, but I still think there's a lot of best practices about good engineering. That I think would be good maybe if we could teach this in some program. But it doesn't exist yet. Like everything I tell you today, there's no way really to learn this directly, or like you need to go like question by question. I still think there's a lot of value for having like programming schools very focused on one thing. I think what we need a lot is a program, maybe like a 3 months program for machine learning, to form like backend engineers to be good with machine learning, and PMs to become more like a data analyst. That would be great. We are lacking a lot of skills with this, but it's pretty complicated. You need to learn a lot of things. So more education is always good. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna have too much education on this field. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.